Hello, everybody. So, quick video today on HIMS. The stock is dropping. The market is down because there was a tiny change in the jobs report. All of these things really doesn't matter to the long-term investor. It's just short-term. It's just these movements make very little sense in the short term, in my view. But HIMS is back in the $13 range, which is nuts. It's just crazy. HIMS is back at its cheapest level I have ever seen on the channel, i.e. at the level where EV over gross profit over revenue growth starts with a 5 handle, with a 0.05 handle. So we are super cheap, right? This is a company, analysts are still predicting they will grow by 53% over the next 12 months, right? Gross margins are outstanding at 82%. Even though if you follow the stock, they've kept guiding for 75% gross margin. They can't seem to get the gross margin to go down. It stays at 82%. And the EBITDA margin, if you look at the trailing 12-month EBITDA margin, it's 3%. But if you follow this company closely, they've guided for a full year 2024 EBITDA margin. They've guided for it to be 11%. So they're expecting that EBITDA margin to really improve in the third and fourth quarter, right, for it to average out 11%. So either way, as far as the rule of 40 goes, we have a rule of 56 if you take the trailing 12-month EBITDA margin, and we have a 64, a rule of 40 sitting at 64 if you take the guided EBITDA margin. So outstanding stock. And by the way, this enterprise value is correct as of around noon Central Time. So it's correct. Anyways, people are in a recession talk. There's a lot of selling off. The reason why the market is selling off might be more explained by the fact that Friday options are expiring. But a lot of people are putting bets on the market and just selling off. It's just a complete sell-off, indiscriminate selling. Whatever they got, they're selling it, and they're moving towards more liquid assets. That's when opportunities arise. And of course, the narrative now is, we're going to have a recession. Well, in my view, we've been in a recession for more than a year, well over a year, maybe not 2 years, but at least a year and a half. But, it all depends on your definition of recession. The way I define recession is it's a softness in household spending. That's how I define recession, right? If you take the official definitions of recession, well, they changed it about 18 months ago. So it's kind of like it's all narrative. Let's not use the official definition. You got to use your own definition. To me, my definition of a recession, we've been in it for a year and a half. Since the rates have been jacked up so high, we've been in that recession. And it's funny because when you have recession talk, in my view, one stock that should shoot up is HIMS. Healthcare is already recessionary enough, but HIMS is even more recessionary. And let me try to show you why. So first of all, we need to understand that health insurance is a broken system, and that may be the understatement of the century right there. It's a broken system. I just want to point that out, why a company that is cheap, right? That is cheap, inexpensive, right? Like HIMS, outside of insurance systems. Why is that important that these companies exist? It is very important these companies exist because we're going to have so many more prescription drugs, so many more cures are going to be coming. And insurance companies are just not going to cover them. They're going to do everything they can in their power to not cover them. And I guess I understand why. Because if you start covering, say, for example, here I'm showing you gene therapies. If you start covering gene therapies which cost millions of dollars, the insurance goes bankrupt. So obviously nobody wants to cover them. So we need a health company outside of the insurance system. And HIMS is that company. This is the CEO tweeting yesterday, talking how because of the way healthcare insurance works in the US, there's about 57 million people in the US that are eligible under 65 that are eligible for GLP-1s and that would benefit from GLP-1s as far as weight loss goes. But of course, guess what? Insurance companies don't cover it outside of very specific diabetes write-ups, diabetes diagnosis. That's the only moment where you get it. You don't get it for weight loss, even though it works for weight loss. Well, Andrew Durham, that's gonna be true for a lot more things than just weight loss in the future. That's why we need a company that is inexpensive outside of the traditional healthcare and traditional health insurance system, because you may remember when sickle cell disease got approved at the beginning of this year. We have now two sickle cell disease treatments have been approved. Sickle cell disease it's a horrible disease, and we now have the first application of gene therapy that does a permanent cure for that. And of course, what you find is that when that became a thing, employers rushed to not cover it. They were like, we're absolutely not going to cover it. And of course that's understandable, because you don't want everybody to be paying, $5,000 a month for an insurance, because all of a sudden a lot of diseases get cured. Guess what? If you follow these companies, if you follow companies in the DNA editing space, you know that leukemia is next. We know that if you study these companies, and you're gonna have some pretty terrible cancers that are gonna be cured. That's my optimistic view speaking here. No health advice, no investment advice. It's hope at this point, but it's very promising. And so what happens if you have a leading disease that is cured? Employers, health insurance systems, they're just not going to be able to cover them. We need an option outside of a health insurance system. Let me quote, Peter Diamandis. I think it's one of his brilliant quote here. Which 85-year-old wouldn't spend half of their wealth, 75% of their wealth, if they could live an extra 10, 15 years, because all of a sudden they can deal with that cancer, even if it costs millions of dollars. We need something outside of a health insurance system. The company doing this, in my view, one of the answers to that problem is HIMSS. And of course, HIMSS is not going to be answering the problem for the major stuff, right? Like the sickle cell disease, like the gene therapies. HIMSS is not dealing with the major stuff. They're dealing with minor things. They're dealing with minor health issues. They are beginning where they can, right? They're having a bottom-up approach to making health inexpensive, and not a top-down approach to making health inexpensive. Maybe there will be another disruptor at some point which takes a top-down approach, but that's not the approach HIMSS is doing. They're going after those costly procedures, costly drugs, costly prescriptions that don't need to be costly anymore. And they don't need to be costly anymore. Why? Because A, they're treated online, and B, they are off patent, right? So the famous example, and that's how they got started, right? They got started with ED. If you know anything about ED, the leading drug for ED is Viagra, and Viagra was famous for being very expensive. And not only is it expensive, but most of the time, at least in the early days, the regular doctor, right, your internal medicine specialist wouldn't prescribe it to you. You would have to go to a urologist. You would have to go to a specialist. So 2 doctor visit in many cases, plus a treatment that used to cost $75, $80 per pill, per once, right? HIMSS comes around, and now they have a product that is off patent, that is manufactured and shipped by automated warehouses, and they also include the cost of the visit with the provider, the cost of the visit. They package that into the cost of the recurring subscription. So HIMSS effectively sponsors the doctor visit, a little bit like when you get cable or fiber at your house, right? If you get a brand new house, you get cable at your house, you're going to have a technician that's going to spend 5 hours to set it up. And then they hope to pay for that technician visit over the next few years where you get the drug. This is the HIMSS business model. So they don't do this for all conditions, but they do this for a lot of entry-level conditions, more minor things. So they do it where they can. And when and where they can, HIMS is most often the cheapest. It is often the cheapest. Why? Because because it has 2 fully automated warehouses, it's able to sell the generic drug at a very low cost, and it benefits from tremendous scale, something that retail pharmacies do not necessarily have. Retail pharmacies oftentimes have a lot of leeway in how they can charge, and they can upcharge, and this is why you have companies that have emerged, like GoodRx, for example. You may have heard of this one. It's like a coupon company to try to get a more fair pricing on your drug at the pharmacy, because it's so disparate, right? It's weird how the pricing goes. It's not transparent. Sometimes it's expensive, and sometimes expensive for generics. So that's one way, right? Transferring the scale economies from automation from online to the customer when you sell the generic. And the other way, of course, is to package the cost of a doctor visit into the cost of a drug, assuming you're getting a prescription, right? The doctor is still a sovereign person, and it's still the doctor's role to say whether you qualify or not for what you think you may need. That's an unbeatable value in my view. And that unbeatable value is likely to become more valuable in case of a recession. And this is unfortunate. I really want to point it out. I'm not happy about this. This is very unfortunate. I wish Jay Powell didn't mess up with the rates in 2020 and then in 21 and 22, and we weren't here, right? Anyways, I'm not going to get started on that tangent. But a recession, unfortunately, as mild as it seems to be right now when you look at these numbers, but a recession, unfortunately, that means people are losing their job. And when you lose your job, at least in the US, sometimes you lose your insurance, right? And if you don't lose your job, you keep your job. Maybe you don't have the money for that good insurance visit anymore. Maybe you start switching to a high deductible insurance plan. That could be one thing. Or maybe you don't have the money for those copays, or maybe to meet that deductible, and you just delay or avoid going to the doctor. So that's something that can happen in a recession. You lose your job, or you lose your insurance sometimes, right? Point number one. Point number two, you can't afford the visits because the visits become too expensive. If the money is tight, you may not have the $80, the $20, the $50, the $100 needed of that copay to see the doctor. Sometimes 2 doctors you need to see if you refer to a specialist, right? You may move to a high deductible insurance plan to save on your costs, right? That's often times, and most employers, they have an option. Do you want the high deductible or do you want the regular? If you want the high deductible, you pay less, right? Also, recessions, and this is unfortunate, but if you lose your job, if there's a recession, it leads to things like depression. You don't even need to lose your job to achieve anxiety and depression, by the way. There's a very well-documented wealth effect, right? If you're a retiree, you're 58, 59, and you remember 2 years ago your 401k, the level that it was at, and now you look at your 401k and you're like, okay, well, I guess I can't retire anymore. That will depress somebody who's about to get ready for the retirement. So this is what recessions bring. Unfortunately, depression, anxiety, HIMSS treats that, and it's unfortunate that people have that, but HIMSS treat that, right? Also, if you have this depression, the anxiety, the stress, what can you have too, right? Associated, right? It's a correlation. It can be associated with things like weight gain, things like ED, things like hair loss. HIMSS treat that. This is all the more minor, as far as health goes, the more minor things that HIMSS can treat. And this is what I will tell you. Assume you're on a prescription drug for ED, depression, hair loss, and I guess some guys are perfectly fine not having hair. It's a lot tougher for women losing their hair, by the way. Perhaps the equivalent to ED for men. Birth control, I could go on, right? They prescribe many, many more stuff. I could have put GLP-1, right? If you've been successful with GLP-1, you've lost your weight, you don't want to gain it back, you want to stay on it. GLP-1, of course, wouldn't be $54 a month, but for at least the historic treatments that they provide, the average we know is $54 a month. So let's assume you have ED. Are you likely to stop that $54 subscription a month, knowing that internet, for example, in most of America is what, between $70 and $90 for an internet subscription? Just that. I mean, this is the cost of your home's landscaper weekly. So I think this is one of the last thing a man will cancel. And I could tell you the same thing for birth control. And, the last thing you want to do is have a kid during a recession. I mean, I could go on and on and on. People are not going to cancel these drugs, in my view, these drugs that are so essential, so personal to their health. And this is why I consider HIMSS to be a recession-proof stock. So the thesis for me, it gets stronger for HIMSS in a recession. If you remember the early days of me covering HIMSS when it was $6, $7, the recession talk was alive and well, and that was a big selling point. And also, this is a more fundamental thing, but when people are trying to save, which they always are, they go online, period. This is just the way of the world. This company is well aligned with the way of the world. It was true for DVD rentals, right? They went online on Netflix, books, Amazon versus Borders. If you don't know this company, you're probably younger than me, but that was a thing in the US, right? Online brokers versus your legacy Morgan Stanley and your legacy investment banks. Digital photos versus Kodak, right? Voice over internet, who remembers Skype, right, versus the telephone, Spotify versus buying the CD, YouTube versus linear TV. Less than 30% of Americans now still have linear TV, which is why if you follow the political campaign, it's all through podcasts now. No, I wonder who's going to watch the TV debates. It's mostly podcasts nowadays. Wikipedia versus library. I could have told you Google versus bookstores and library. This will also be true, in my view, for doctors and pharmacies. They will also move online. Amazon strongly believes in that. The difference between Amazon and, say, a HIMSS is the way HIMSS pays for the doctor, kind of puts it into one subscription. That is a key difference compared to Amazon. Amazon accepts insurance. HIMSS doesn't accept insurance. As explained, I happen to believe that the future of health probably includes way less insurance than today and way more out-of-pocket payments than today. It might become a normal thing, right? That's the way I see this headed, and this will be true, I think, for doctors and pharmacies, and this can only be true, of course, for doctors and pharmacy for more entry-level conditions. And most health conditions are entry level, right? And most of those are usually treated with prescription. Prescriptions are the leading way to treat someone who has a condition, right? Surgery is not a leading way. Physical intervention is not a leading way. This is often a later thing that you do. First, you try with a drug, with pharmacies, and pharmacies do that for you. So not only are they in the way of the world for the long term, they're also with the way of the world for the very short term right now, which is the recession. Absolutely insane to see the stock trading at $13. I added today. I'm tired of adding, but I will keep adding. This is not investment advice. This is just entertainment. No financial advice, no helpful advice. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.